Well, that's a book I'm writing for basically Unitarians. If the basic generic book would be Welcome to the Cosmos, which is part of a larger universe. Basically, I'm a scientist. I always have. When I was 5, Einstein died, and boy, I was really pissed at him. I was like, he wasn't that old. He didn't have to go so quickly. So that's. His death was actually a worldwide event. The first time I noticed the world, because I knew about Einstein and that. So anyway, we were thinking of reorganizing in a way. The UUs used to work in Concord with Emerson and Thoreau. And this is one of my favorite books. Emerson, A Mind on Fire was written in '96. Bob Richardson, who was considered the intellect worldwide on Unitarian thinking, he wrote books on Emerson, Thoreau, and William James. And he was working on a book on Omar Khayyam before he died, but another Unitarian thinker. So anyway, Emerson, after he graduated theological school, his first sermon at church, he said, we are a science organization, not a religion. And from now on, I'm just speaking science, because science answers the big questions. Why are we, where are we? How does it all work? What is this? That's the questions most people have. And it's science that provides the answers. So he organized what are called, he called them forums. I forget the name of it now. But anyway, once a week they'd meet, and it would be organized so that, like today's service, I'm going to suggest, the first, it would be broken up into, say, 4 or 15 minutes parts. So somebody would come and give a presentation, and back then there was a lot of new stuff happening, which is they're still happening, and they had a lot of people that were intelligent, and so they had no problems having 3 or 4 speakers every Sunday, and it was a pretty rigid time. The speaker would get up, he would give a presentation, 5 or 10 minutes, on something he knew something about, something he found interesting, and then there'd be a 5 to 10 minute talk back. And then you'd go on to the next service. So anyway, this is the talk back part. That's what we're thinking of reorganizing into. Anybody think it's a good idea? Okay, anyway, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on. I was motivated, a friend of mine, he started a Bible group here in UUDumaguete, and he started out with 6 or 8 people, and now it's like he's complaining because he's got like 60 people, and he says it's a thing. So I figure if you can start with a Bible group and end up with 60 people, there's probably, 6 or 10 people in UUDumaguete that are probably interested in science, right? Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Anyway, that's part 1. Okay, let me get my notes for part 2. Anyway, this is my book, Welcome to the Unitarian Cosmos. And I was motivated by an article in Scientific American. It was actually an editorial. And they said, the problem, we're speaking North American kids, I'm not sure what's going on. And they said the problem in North America now is that children, by the time they reach grade 1, have a negative view of science. It's too hard. I'm not going to be like it. Which is a really crisis in our children, because the tragedy is, if you think about it, the first 5 years of our life is when we're the best scientists. If you look at Nathan now, he's 16 months. He's a scientist. He's exploring, how does the world work? So basically, and I wish I'd done this for my own kids. I realized I needed to have a science book that I'm reading to my kids. And the purpose of my science book, we can go to the next slide there. this is one of the pictures from the science book. And I tell people this was in Scientific American in 2016 and again in 2017. It was considered one of the best articles of the year. I call this the most important science article written in the 21st century. And what this is, it's actually a map of where we live. So part of my book is going to be, you know, the kids as they get older, they learn they live on a street, right? And the street has an address, and that it's part of the earth. And then you learn that you live in the solar system. Then you learn you live in the Milky Way galaxy, right? We got the Milky Way galaxy? No, next. There it is. So anyway, this is where we live, right? We live in, our sun is part of a spiral Milky Way galaxy. So you tell kids that when they're young. You tell them when they're Nathan's age, because he's already understanding. He's just not speaking yet. But you just say, and you take him out at night, right? There's a star, you know, there's the sun. Here's where you live. So you should raise kids with their first science book. Now, when I was a kid, the Milky Way galaxy actually had 4 arms. That's how much we've advanced. Now we know it's really 2 arms, and we actually live on the outer edge of the one of the arms. And it's good to know how it all works, right? Well, the galaxy actually spins, right? So we have what's called a galactic year. Anyone want to guess what was happening on the Earth 1 galactic year ago? We've made 1 cycle, you know, that's a galactic year. Well, 1 galactic year ago, dinosaurs were predominant on Earth. So that's one way of measuring a galactic year. Tell your kids that, you know, what you're going on. That also allows you to understand the sky that you look at. And you know, let's teach our kids, look up. I was amazed. I was at a conference recently, and there was a beautiful night, starry sky up in Valencia. And I was amazed at how many Filipinos said, wow, I haven't looked at the stars in a long time. We actually had a meteor that night. But there was so, you know, it's just not something people do anymore, which is really sad. One thing I'd like to tell you, when you look up, you know, on a real starry night, there's a pattern, right? So when I lived in Key West, I could stand and look east toward Cuba. And we had an area, the 7 Mile Bridge, where they didn't put any lights. So it's where the astronomers go in the US once a year to study the skies, and they've made it a really dark area. And I don't know, has anybody ever seen the galactic hub? Okay. This is one thing. I was lucky. I had a friend in Key West. Well, basically, imagine you're on that spot and you're on a spiral galaxy. What's your view? Well, when you look at the sky, you're going to see all the stars are in about 2/3 of the sky, right? And the other third is empty of stars. Well, that's because you're looking at the galactic arm, okay? That explains it. Now, I'm not sure how often it happens, but it'd be nice to find out. Anyway, my friend called me up and he said, tonight the galactic hub is rising. So you can actually, you go out and you see the arm, and then you can see off in the horizon, you can see the hub of the galaxy. It's really bright, right? So you can actually see the hub of the galaxy rise in the sky. Something we should be teaching our children. Something we should be doing ourselves. Anyway, that's, I don't know, is there any more slides on that book? No, something else. Okay, we'll just leave that one on. And no, leave the one you just had on. That's my main one, yeah. Okay, anyway, this is a really interesting picture. Most of the scientists that wrote this, I added the magnet, okay? We live in a cosmos that's filled with stars. Yeah. What's that? Oh, okay. Anyway, basically, there's a section called the Great Attractor, which is where the magnet is. And we live in a cosmos that's in motion. So there's an energy going on, right? Well, the energy is, visualize you have a bathtub and just fill it with a bunch of galaxies, okay? And they're all just floating around. If you want to know what the pattern is, pull the plug on the bathtub. You see a vortex motion. The whole cosmos is in a vortex motion, and it's being pulled towards what's called the Great Attractor. In the original article, they actually talk about it, the Great Attractor. So there's an energy force that seems to be directing the cosmos. And if something is making the cosmos go, you get into, part of my book is 99 to 1. Basically, we know there's some sort of vast energy outside that seems to be shaping the cosmos. The only problem with modern science is, this is the New Scientist here. Now, I don't know if this is true in Europe or Asia. I can just tell you what's true in America. Basically scientists control what Einstein called the MIA, the modern evangelical atheist scientists. And one rule they have is there is no before the Big Bang. So we're going to go to my slide there. So anyway, we're in a Unitarian church. What does the word universe mean? It actually comes from an old theory. And Plutarch actually was the one that told me about it. And he said there's a first science theory that explains everything, okay? And basically what happened around 2,500 years ago, Heraclitus hands to Socrates a theory. And he said, here's a theory that explains how it all works. You know, it was called the theory of everything. Anyway, this is part of the theory. And basically, it's in the Rig Veda. Plutarch says if you read the Rig Veda, it's the oldest written science book. But he said the Rig Veda is mainly religious stuff. But if you look at the Rig Veda and you look to the core, you will find a science theory. So it's all based on that. This is an interesting book by Goswami, The Self-Aware Universe. And he's from India. He's a physicist. He writes the book. He says in India, the Bhagavad Gita, Rig Veda, made no sense to him. He gets a degree in physics. Now it makes perfect sense because he understands the science theory that's hidden in the Rig Veda. Anyway, the core of it is of the debate, and you got to be a science thinker. We live in the cosmos, okay? Now the theory is, before the cosmos, there was either nothing or something, right? Just logical thinking. If there is something, let's call it a prior energy form, Uni-Verse, which means prior energy form. And there was a debate, actually Kepler and Newton took part in the debate because you've seen the picture now that we've got a picture. It looks like there's a big energy form outside of the cosmos that's shaping it. So the debate in science should be, what is the nature of the universe? Now the problem is, I find in North America, all the scientists are fundamentalists. So I have a discussion with Larry and Sharon. They're both science thinkers. And she says, oh, you're writing this history of the first science theory. Tell me all about it. So I give her this slide, and I said, well, basically, this is the crux of the theory, is that before the universe, there was either nothing or there was some sort of energy form. Universe, that's what the word universe means. Right away, she bolts up. Now you're talking about God. This discussion's over, and she bolts out the door. So, and Epicurus pointed that out about 2,000 years ago. He said, when you have this discussion, some people will insist upon replacing the word universe with the word God. These are just vulgar minds. What can you do? Just ignore them. They were unable to expand their thinking beyond that level. So anyway, that's... any questions? Okay. What's another slide there? Okay, well, that's actually a picture of, once again, the flow in the cosmos. If you look up, anyone ever see Van Gogh's painting Starry Nights? Well, if you look, he's drawn a vortex, right? Well, there's some people that have a type of thinking where they do photography, and they can see the motion of the stars. So all the stars are in a motion. So some people can actually see the motion. Anyway, the question is, what's doing that? And it looks like there's pretty well proof that there is a universe, just from the energy flows. And the debate, once again, it goes back to, we actually had a debate in science about it, because it was Newton and Kepler. And the issue is, what is the nature of the universe we live in? Well, you don't know anything about it, right? You only know what you experience in your life. And that's what the original science theory teaches you. Everything you know about the universe is what you've personally experienced in your life. So that's the purpose of life, is to find out, what is your place in the universe. The good news is the universe talks to me. Been talking to me since I was small. I don't know if anybody here was experimental when they were a kid, but I had to go to Sunday school, right? And my big question in Sunday school was, you tell me about this great, powerful God, but I don't see any evidence of it. And I was an experimenter, like I'm going to throw a rock up in the air that should be able to, right? I'm just like, show me proof, show me proof, show me proof. So I go all around, and I finally quit going to Sunday school around grade 5. And all the Sunday school, nobody could answer, why don't I see, except one Sunday school teacher said one thing, and he gave me the correct answer. He said, you will. You will see proof that the universe exists. Just keep looking. So anyway, I was always challenging the universe for existence, and as a hint, the way you find out the universe exists and actually talks to you. First, I'm a bit of a mystic, so Scott Peck wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled, and in it he talks about the voice. And I was in second year medicine when I had my first voice experience, and Peck is a psychiatrist. He's saying, this is a phenomenon, this happens with people, and the voice tells me to do something. And I'm like, that's stupid, I don't want to do it. And in the book, he says that's the Jonah syndrome. He says the first time you hear the voice, you ignore it. You don't want to do it. Anyway, I ended up ignoring it, and one of the biggest regrets of my life was not listening to the voice. So from then on, every time the voice told me something, I kind of followed it. And my book is in 1992, 3:58, I'm woken up in the night. You awake? Yeah, I'm awake. I'm pissed now because I'm getting awakened at 3:58. I got to go to work the next day. Couldn't you wake me? All right. Okay, what do you want? You need to write the history of the first science theory, the history of spiritual medicine. So basically, the book is a vocation for me. I was told to write it. And so anyway, I'm going to come out with it. Now, the reason I'm writing the book is there's a lot of kids don't have a way to make money here, right? So the purpose of my book is I'm going to have a scholarship, and it's going to be for grade 0 to 6. In other words, all you got to do is read the book. All the science theory asks you is just understand. It's just here's an explanation for how it all works. And if you understand this, there will be a $25 scholarship. You know, you just have to pass the test. So anyway, that's my plans for my book. How are we doing time-wise? Hmm? What's that? Oh, this is my book's writing. It's kind of odd. Basically, when you're writing a computer book, I discovered something interesting. So, normally a book has an index, right? A glossary. So, most modern computer books now, they just reprint the book. There you go. But I realized when you're writing a computer book, we can't see that. Anyway, there will be a sentence. And basically, this is the essence of the first science theory. And basically, to understand it, and it was, once again, Plato said, basically you have 8 concepts: universe, cosmos, psyche, conscien, spiros, the concept of intelligence. And basically, if you put those 8 concepts together, you have the whole theory. So in the book, you just do the work yourself. Now, the word conscien, consciousness, right? That's one of the major concepts in the theory. And right beside it, you see 1 in 8. So if you want to figure the theory out, so this is a workbook. In order to figure out the theory, you have to search through the book 1-8. So 1-8 takes you to the 8 major concepts that you need to understand to write the book. So anyway, that's part of how I'm writing it here. I'm kind of making it up as I go, but now here's this is another one of my books.
Ray, what are those 8 concepts again?
Well, you're in a Unitarian church. One is Uni-Verse. One is cosmos, right? One is conscien, with to know, consciousness. One is spiros. That's I said the word Unitarian is one of the 8 concepts, but the word Unitarian, actually the original word is spiros. And that's based on there was a Nobel Prize given in 2022, really interesting Nobel Prize, for an experiment done 25 years ago. They didn't want to give a Nobel for it, but basically what they proved, what the 22 Nobel was about Einstein's spooky action at a distance, which was officially banned by science since we can't talk about it. But spiros is, the cosmos is filled with an energy field called spiros. And it's an energy that connects everything together. And it's kind of interesting because it's the basis of understanding consciousness. Now, consciousness, I used to do talks. I really had fun around 2010 with it because my science friends said, oh, your problem is you don't understand the word consciousness. And of course, they didn't. But an interesting thing happened in 2000. I don't have the dictionary here, but in 2000, they published the official science dictionary, right? Guess what they did? They took out the word consciousness. Not in science anymore. We don't want to talk about consciousness. It's called the hard problem of consciousness. Anyway, spiros is the energy field that gives you consciousness. So I can give you a brief review. And it's pretty simple. Like a computer has hardware, right? But it also has software, the programming. Well, you're the exact same. You have a brain, that's your hardware. You have a body, a brain. But relativity tells you solid is not real, right? So your body's not real. That's what science tells you. But what is real is the information in the brain. So your brain is actually, the software is the Spiros energy field. So there's two theories in science. You've all been raised with the idea and the belief your consciousness is separate from everybody else, right? Which is fine. That's one theory. That's what everybody accepts. That's what everybody believes. But in fact, Schrodinger, 100 years ago, said consciousness is singular. It's an energy field called Spiros. So when you're born and you develop a brain and you start your software working, your software is connected, is run through Spiros, okay? Blake, the poet, said it simply. He said, you believe a lie when you think with, not through your brain. So this is one of my favorite lectures. I love talking about death because death is a physics problem, right? Want to understand death? You got to understand death in physics. Well, they had a big debate in science it was called the Black Hole War. And Steve Hawking said, well, if you jump into a black hole, if you die, you're just gone. Everything's gone. And Susskind said, you've forgotten your basic physics, Steve. Information, you are the information in your head, right? That's all a form of energy. Just like heat, light, well, information's a form of energy. And if you throw yourself into a black hole, your body's gone, but all that information is still there. And Hawking did concede. He said, you're correct. If we fall into a black hole, you're still here. Your consciousness, conscient, all that information is still here. So I don't think anybody here has heard that from science, right? I think, I don't know, what's the official science view, Steve, on death? Yeah, anyway, all I'm giving you is the basic understanding of how, it's actually my favorite topic, death, being an ER doctor. I had two great moments in my life. I was there when my dad died, and I was there when my mother died. And finally, when my mother died 10 years ago, I finally had the courage. It was a couple hours after we'd cleaned the room. I got back, and I was in my room, and I finally said, Mom, are you okay? Because I was always afraid to ask that. I didn't ask my dad because I was afraid I wouldn't get an answer, right? But this time, my mom was a high-level mystic. As a matter of fact, at the funeral, my sister agreed with me. My mom was a saint. She was just an amazing person. And so I'm in this room. It's Kingston, and it's February, and I'm looking out the room, and we're having a blizzard. And it's 2 in the morning, and it's pitch black, and I look around the room, because, how do people let you know they're okay? Well, I have a butterfly land on my hand. Some people actually make plans. You'll know I've gone because I'll come back as a pheasant and say hello. People do that, those things. So I finally make it. And I'm looking at this pitch black sky and blizzard, and I'm like, how is she ever going to let me know? And all of a sudden I notice that an area of cloud starts to open up like a donut, and the moon, it's a full moon, it was nearby, so it opens up and lights up this donut hole. So I'm like blinking and like, is this really happening? Then the donut hole forms a heart shape. Then the moon comes through, and then it all fades away. So I know my mom let me know she was okay. I had one of my favorite gurus is Wayne Dyer. And I lucked out one night because I happened to be snorkeling. I had a job in the Bahamas. And for 3 weeks, I'd been snorkeling the reef there and hadn't really seen anything. And then that day, right on the teleprompter on the TV, Wayne Dyer died, right? I know he's died. He's in that first couple of hours, okay. Anyway, I said to Wayne, do me a favor, I haven't seen, and I go in, jump in the water, and there's what I wanted to see that I hadn't seen for 3 weeks. Anyway, this is how, that's why I tell people I'm a mystic, because I I start to use mysticism in my life, and I start to expect it, and it's made my life interesting. And I'll end with this statement. He's a physicist, Goswami, and he says, you can't understand mysticism until you understand quantum mechanics, because science explains how everything I just told you works. Science tells you that's the way the system works. So anyway, that's my presentation for